Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CBD Talk Podcast. Today, we are on episode number 57, and we have a return visitor. First, I want to explain the backdrop. So, I have not done a podcast episode since I moved into my new house. And the reason was because I was just like, I've got no background to put, and it's just so boring, and it's just a white wall. So, you got my kitchen today. So sorry about that, guys, but thought it was better than just a blank wall. I could be very, very wrong. And also, I want to give a mention our friends at iThriveNaturally.com today. They are sponsoring this episode. Tina Williams and her group. She has been a supporter of the podcast since day one, and we are just really grateful to have such good friends out there. And just want to make sure you knew about iThriveNaturally.com. Great honey sticks, granola to die for, all great, wonderful CBD stuff. So now we're going to get to it because we had our friend David Dawson here on episode number 42. But you know what? There just wasn't enough time to go through everything because this man, well, actually, last time we talked about the book. I was going to say he's a book, but we talked about his book last time, and so this time we're going to go into a few other things. There's there's just really a lot to talk about. So I did want to let you guys know, and you'll see on the screen, David Dawson is the Chief Science Officer at Balanced Bio. They've got some amazing products over there, some great CBD products, and they have the brains of David Dawson behind them. So that's always a good thing. Um, so let's just jump right in. Everyone, if you have not listened to episode number 42, I want you to listen to episode number 42 because it has a lot of great information and we're going to build on it here. So it's really something that I think would be helpful for you. Okay, so we're jumping into the hard stuff right off the bat, and and it has a lot to do with medicine and science in general, which David could go on forever about. But we're going to jump halfway into this, and we're going to talk about the shift in medicine to start this discussion out. So, David, why don't you just jump in and tell us how things are changing?
Okay, well, yeah,
I know it's hard, and I'm throwing you in
basically,
the middle.
yeah, yeah. But and you said that we're going to go into hard stuff, but realistically, we're not because what I'm going to be talking about is why cannabis works as medicine, and Albert Einstein and Richard Feynman are both credited. We don't know actually which one should be receiving the credit. There's a quote that I really like that is relevant to what we're talking about, and that's that if you can't explain a concept simply, you simply don't understand the concept.
Mm,
And so what I try to do is I try to explain exactly why cannabis works as simply as I possibly can,
mhm,
so that you don't really need a strong background in scientific methodology to understand this whole thing.
mhm.
Okay, and like you were saying, we're going to kind of get into something worldview, our paradigms in science, and a paradigm is simply a worldview that scientists of a particular discipline operate under, and this worldview is oftentimes affected by historical, political, bureaucratic, economic, and other influences both inside and outside the scientific community. Um, the most helpful analogy to really understand paradigms is to view them as kind of a religion or a worldview that researchers of a particular field operate under.
Okay, so what was the paradigm and what is it now?
Okay, well, the paradigm was, or actually it still is because we haven't shifted the paradigm yet, but the paradigm that has been going on in medicine was established in the late 1930s, early 1940s, and probably the father of this paradigm is Louis Pasteur.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I refer to as the one molecule approach to medicine. Okay, and the easy example of how this works is an ailment that is one of my favorite ailments in the world, because most of my patients, or most of my clients, are fibromyalgia patients, and fibromyalgia is a really really good example of how this one molecule approach to medicine works.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about fibromyalgia is it's the hardest thing in the world to diagnose, but it's the easiest thing in the world to treat. And the thing that happens with fibromyalgia is, and I've got people that come to me, they're on like 20, 25, 30 different medications a day. And let me explain to you how that happens. And I believe you have a slide that kind of.
Yep, I've got it up right now.
Okay, beautiful. Now, what happens, and this is how this whole thing works, this one molecule approach works. Patient goes into the doctor and says, "Doctor, I'm in pain. You know, this pain is radiating throughout my body. It's just, I'm in pain all the time." And the doctor says, "Oh, well, no problem at all. We've got a molecule for that. We call it Vicodin. It's an opiate, kind of a minor opiate. And what happens is the doctor prescribes that opiate, that Vicodin, and so 3 weeks later, that patient comes back to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I'm constipated." You know, opiate-induced constipation. So that doctor comes back and says, "Oh, well, no problem at all. We've got a molecule for that. We call it Relistor." Okay, so the patient again comes back a few weeks later, says, "Doctor, I'm anxious all the time. I've got, the anxiety is just really, really starting to bum me out." The doctor says, "Oh, well, no problem. We've got a molecule for that. We call it Xanax." So the doctor prescribes Xanax, and a few weeks later, that patient comes back and says, "Doctor, I'm just tired all the time. I've got this fatigue problem. I can't get up in the morning." The doctor says, "No problem at all. We've got a molecule for that. We call it modafinil. And that produces depression. And the patient comes back and says, "Doctor, I'm depressed. I just can't handle the bureaucratic stresses that are out there. That it's just caused me some major depression." Doctor says, "Oh, no problem at all. We've got a molecule to treat that. We call it Zoloft." You probably listened to me enough. I'm not going to read the side effects of Zoloft,
because there are so many.
Yeah, Don, if you want to read them, go ahead, and that'll get so that they're not constantly listening to my voice.
Yeah, for the ones that are listening to this on the audio podcast, you can also go to the YouTube channel and look at these slides. But Zoloft: diarrhea, dizziness, drowsiness, indigestion, fatigue, insomnia, loose stools, anal leakage, nausea, tremors, headache, anorexia, decreased libido, diaphoresis, ejaculation failure, xerostomia, neuropathy, sinusitis, speech disturbance, and also what's not on here is suicidal thoughts.
Right. Okay. And now you notice how. Well, here's what happens if you watch like a pharmaceutical commercial. At the end of those commercials, they always say, "Well, check with your doctor immediately if any of these side effects occur." Now, what they don't say is, because we've got your doctor conditioned to whatever the side effect is, we've got a molecule to treat that.
Yeah.
And this is that one molecule approach, and this is why people are on like 25, 30 different medications a day.
Okay, so what do we got to shift to then?
Okay, well, basically what we've got going on is a new shift of paradigms, and this is a paradigm shift where we're getting away from one molecule approach because it's not working. It's producing what are referred to as iatrogenic ailments. And iatrogenic ailments are just ailments that are caused by the medications. Okay, and so what we're at now is a shift in paradigms, and scientific paradigms are always a work in progress. It's the responsibility of scientists to design studies which have the potential to challenge the dominant paradigm. Now, in 1971, Richard Nixon, my hero, prohibited research on the medicinal properties of cannabis, and it just kind of demonstrates how, in the science of medicine, a variety of entities, both outside the scientific community, make the medical decisions for us. We've got politicians that believe this is the paradigm that they operate under. They believe that we elected them for their medical expertise.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is what's going on. Is now we're at the point of, it's realistically, as a scientist, it's my belief that banning research makes it extremely difficult for scientific knowledge to progress.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Right. So
you can't get any federal funds, and they made it illegal, and it's just
right. So we're kind of in the midst of a paradigm shift, and here's where the paradigm shift is occurring. And if you would put up the next slide, I don't know if it's up there yet. The endocannabinoid, phytocannabinoid.
Yep. I got it.
Okay, beautiful. Because this is where it kind of comes down to. And I'm throwing some terminology out there that you need to be familiar with. And that's endocannabinoids and phytocannabinoids. Okay? These are two groups of cannabinoid molecules. And that's what we're getting down to is looking at things from a molecular perspective. Okay? Endocannabinoids, endo means from within. Endocannabinoids are the cannabinoids that are produced normally naturally by the vertebrate body or the human body. And there's a variety of endocannabinoids.
But I like the fact that you say vertebrate, because it's not just human.
Right, because it's all the way from fish to humans. That we all have an endocannabinoid system. That makes us unique in the animal world. Insects don't have an endocannabinoid system, and of course, but vertebrates do, and it's kind of an interesting thing. So there's endocannabinoids and phytocannabinoids. Endo means from within, cannabinoids that are produced from within the human or the vertebrate body. Phytocannabinoids, phyto means flower, and phytocannabinoids are the cannabinoids that are produced naturally by the cannabis plant. And the interesting thing is they're the exact same molecule. Or if they're not the same molecule, they act on the receptors in the exact same way. Okay, so like, for example, anandamide is the same molecule as THC. And actually, the United States government has came out, NIDA has come out, the National Institute of Drug Abuse has come out on June 25th of this year and said, anandamide and THC are the same.
That's amazing.
That's huge. I mean, it's small steps.
But that's a pretty strong statement.
That's a pretty big, it's a major step that the United States, because this has been going on, this paradigm that they've been operating under has been going on for like 8 decades, where they just cannabis is bad. And what we're going to do is 8 decades ago was we're going to rename cannabis using a racial word and or a racist word, and that way we can back then it worked very well because there was racism was even more rampant
unlike now.
even more rampant than it is today.
God help us all. Okay, moving forward.
What I've got here, I think you still got the chart out.
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm sorry. And the first two were the anandamide and 2-AG. They're endocannabinoids, and it was Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who is actually the father of this paradigm that we're talking about, that demonstrated conclusively that anandamide and THC are the same molecule, and 2-AG and CBD are the same molecule. And what you can do, like somebody like myself who has a form of muscular dystrophy, I don't produce enough of the endocannabinoid anandamide. So what I can do is I can supplement THC for the anandamide, a little bit of THC for the anandamide that my body is not producing naturally. And as you age, and this is kind of interesting, as you age, your body produces less and less anandamide and less 2-AG.
Oh.
Okay, and that's why as you age, your pain increases.
Oh.
Okay, so and that's kind of that's kind of an interesting aspect of this whole thing, and so essentially you can if you're not producing enough of a particular endocannabinoid, you can supplement the
with a phytocannabinoid
with the equivalent phytocannabinoid. So what I've got here are endocannabinoid phytocannabinoid equivalents. One that I really kind of want to touch on is one called verotamine. That's the endocannabinoid. Well, THCV is the phytocannabinoid equivalent to that. And the interesting thing is they're both what are referred to as antagonists of the CB1 receptor.
And what would that help? I mean, why should we care about that?
Okay, here's why we care about that. Because these are antagonists of the CB1, and the reason we care about that is because this is a molecule that's really key in the treatment of diabetes.
And we touched on this in that last episode that we did.
Right, I think we probably did.
Yeah, which is amazing.
This is something that we demonstrated in my laboratory in Indiana when I was extracting endocannabinoids myself. And basically what both verotamine and THCV do is rather than they're kind of the opposite of THC. Okay, rather than giving you the munchies, these molecules actually inhibit appetite, and they regulate blood sugar levels, and they reduce the body's resistance to insulin.
Amazing.
So they're really, really, really good. You're going to find this molecule is going to be really key in the treatment of diabetes, and you have to understand that diabetes is going to be a $500 billion with a T.
Yeah.
Dollar healthcare hit by the year 2020. Okay, so this is huge. If you want to treat diabetes, and there's strains out there that are high in THCV that you can target if you're a diabetic. And those are strains like Doug's Baron, which I believe we might have talked about.
Yeah, we did. It's not easy to find.
It's not easy to find. No, it's difficult to find, and a lot of the nasty cannabis industry people are kind of holding it back because they're like, oh, I can make a ton of money down the road, so we're not going to give it to people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's happening with the cannabis industry is people are starting to,
You
well,
know
they're
what? It's like
turning it
the
into
cannabis industry is supposed to be the
it,
anti-pharma industry.
it should be, yeah.
And
And
now they're playing the same freaking
now they're playing,
tricks.
yes, and that's, that's not the spirit of the plant.
No, it's not.
And that's where we run into an issue, and it makes me mad, but there is a strain out there that is easy to find.
Hmm.
It has high doses of THCV, and that's called Durban poison.
Okay.
And you'll find that at pretty much any decent dispensary. Of course, out west it's easier to find. Here in Florida, um, it's such a new medical cannabis state that they don't know what they're doing,
Right. But
and so,
there are some good geneticists out there that are really doing
yeah,
some good
yeah,
work and have the
but it's
heart of the
really,
plant in their mind.
they're still at the point where they're just starting their growth.
Yeah, and they need to be
And
concentrating on THCV.
right, yeah, they need to be concentrating on THCV, and they will,
Hmm.
because people are going to know this stuff,
Yeah,
and if they don't, I'm going to tell them.
that's right. That's
Um,
right.
so this
Okay.
is
And then the next one was NADA.
okay. Yeah, and now the thing about these last three
Hmm.
is we're not really certain on these.
Hmm. So
Um,
indications are leaning this way.
yeah, indications are leaning this way because we know. See, and this is what I found when I did my endocannabinoid studies. Extracted endocannabinoids.
Hmm.
This is what I found. Now the problem is I haven't been able to. I mean, there's like 109 other phytocannabinoids that are out there,
Hmm.
and I haven't had time to look at them all.
Gee, what have you been doing, David? I mean, come on.
Well, I'm working on my PhD,
I,
and
I've got to give you
and
some grief.
the problem that happens when you're dealing with cannabinoids is schools say, oh well, if we do anything cutting edge or if we do anything with cannabinoids, we could lose our federal funding.
Exactly.
So you run into those issues where the United States government is doing everything that they possibly can do
Hmm.
to keep information from
Yeah.
being generated.
Hmm.
And so you're having to struggle with the fact that the United States government doesn't seem to want this information out there. Now, realistically, if the FDA had any brains at all, what they would be doing is they would be saying, okay, what we need to do is we need to find a group of healthy individuals
Hmm.
and extract endocannabinoids from them. And then once we know what we can do that, if we do that, then we can get a baseline as to what a healthy endocannabinoid system looks like.
Yeah.
And then what we can do is we can start to compare. And that's what I did in my laboratory in Indiana.
Hmm.
But I did it in vivo. So I did it with mice.
Hmm.
And what we did was we compared diabetes. You can create diabetes in mice. So what you can do is we were able to determine through experimentation in vivo studies that diabetic mice don't produce enough vitamin.
Hmm.
We looked at Crohn's disease.
Hmm.
You can breed mice. You can buy mice that have Crohn's.
Hmm.
Okay, and so you can say, okay, Crohn's disease. The biggest thing about Crohn's disease is that Crohn's doesn't seem to have the molecule that's not being generated with Crohn's is beta caryophyllene, and that's actually a terpene.
Hmm.
Okay, and so, but we don't need to get into terpenes.
We'll do that on another episode.
Yeah, we can do terpenes. So yeah,
But
that's
we both know that, I mean, Crohn's
and
disease
then
is
and the
treated
other thing
very
that we
well by
did,
cannabinoids.
right? The other thing that we did was we looked at the side effects of chemotherapy, and you would
Hmm.
not believe what how the chemotherapy throws an endocannabinoid system out of balance.
Oh, I would believe.
You wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And when it gets down to it, chemotherapy is the biggest fraud that's ever been perpetrated on the American people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware the survival rate for chemotherapy
No.
in the United States,
Mm-mm.
2.8%.
Jeez.
And that's the survival rate. Okay. In Australia, it's a little bit higher, but chemotherapy, it's like 3% in Australia.
Hmm.
But I guess the point is, chemotherapy throws the endocannabinoid system completely out of balance.
Hmm.
The one molecule approach oftentimes will throw the endocannabinoid system completely out of balance. I kind of talk about that in my book,
Hmm.
although I didn't have the evidence to support what I was saying when I wrote the book.
Hmm.
I have that evidence now.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to this chart really quick.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got an anandamide equating to THC and 2AG equating to CBD. What are
Yeah,
some
sure.
illnesses that so we know the verotamine with the THCV, we know that that's diabetes. Tell
Diabetes,
me a
right.
couple things that anandamide is
Right.
necessary for, and 2AG is, that these that can help. So we can give people some information like, hey, do this.
Okay, well, for the most part, there's very few, very, very few ailments that require massive amounts of THC.
Right.
Things like cancer, um, you need high doses of THC to treat cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But the molecule that's really most important for treating, or the phytocannabinoid that's most important for treating cancers, there's THC, CBD. They're both extremely important because they're anti-mutagenic and anti-proliferant.
Mm-hmm.
And CBC
Okay.
is really key for treating cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what you need is a full spectrum,
Yes.
and Rick Simpson would agree
Mm-hmm.
to that. Although he's really caught up in the
Yeah.
THC thing. But there's very few ailments like me. Um, I don't really need high doses of THC.
Mm-hmm.
I need a little bit to supplement my endocannabinoid system. My endocannabinoid system is pretty well balanced. I'm, because I medicate basically. Well, I medicate a couple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the beginning, when I was first messed up after I had my, after I was on hospice and went through my little death experience,
Mm-hmm.
I needed a lot more because,
Well, you had to
all these-
jumpstart your system.
yeah, I had to jumpstart my endocannabinoid system, pretty much, yeah. But so now it's a little bit different the way it works. This multi-molecule approach is a little bit different than the one molecule approach. The
Mhm.
one molecule approach is, it's not working. Well, we'll increase the dose.
And we really do champion full spectrum
Right. Well,
oils
you
here.
should be.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be done is you have to go full spectrum to balance your endocannabinoid
Mhm.
system.
Yeah.
Here's how it works. If you hold your hand out in front of you and you have your fingers extended,
Mm-hmm.
think about it this way. Every one of those fingers is a receptor,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And those receptors are looking for particular molecules, particular endocannabinoids,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And of course, we're talking about supplementing phytocannabinoids. So you've got these receptors in that are each individual receptor is going, well, if I could only get that one molecule, that would make me happy.
Uh-huh.
So they're searching for like one molecule, one receptor is looking for THC,
Mm-hmm.
another receptor might be looking for CBD, Another receptor might be looking for CBC. Another receptor would be looking for THCV.
Mm-hmm.
Another receptor would be looking for CBG, CBN, whatever the phytocannabinoid that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you flood your endocannabinoid system with those molecules, each one of those receptors gets the key molecule that it needs, and it goes, that felt good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send feel-good messages to the brain.
I like feel-good messages.
And those feel-good messages are essentially what happens is those feel-good messages are translated into the brain, as that sense of well-being that cannabis is so well known to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is how cannabis works, and this is that sense of well-being that comes. If your endocannabinoid system is in balance, you're going to have that sense of well-being. And let's kind of talk about a little bit about the differences between CBD and THC.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. THC, you always get people that say, oh, well, THC, it's bad. It's always the politicians that say this.
Yeah.
THC is bad because
the alcohol industry.
Right. Yeah, because it produces dopamine, and dopamine is what causes that high.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, THC releases dopamine, and of course that high, politicians don't want you to be high. They don't want that dopamine. Now the problem is they don't understand that we need a little bit of dopamine, and we get dopamine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You would not believe the things that actually produce dopamine. Shopping. A lot of people, they go out, they buy something, and it produces pleasure. THC is that pleasure molecule,
Mm-hmm.
and opiates are pleasure molecules. They release dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
Dopamine is that high.
Uh-huh.
Now, and dopamine actually, like so many things produce dopamine. You remember way back when there was the jogging craze?
The jogging craze?
The jogging craze.
Yeah.
When
Mm-hmm.
people were running all the time.
Yeah, I didn't get caught up in that.
No, I didn't either. I was not really able to run because of my disability.
Yeah.
And so, but remember, they came out and they said, oh, well, there's the runner's high.
Mm-hmm.
Because it produced dopamine. Gambling produces dopamine.
Jeez.
You get that elusive like on Facebook, that produces a little bit of dopamine. Okay, and the difference between THC and CBD is THC produces dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
CBD produces or releases serotonin.
Oh.
Now, serotonin, rather than being the pleasure molecule, serotonin is the happiness molecule. And happiness and pleasure are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is long-term. Let's see if I can bring this up. Let's see. I've got a whole list of,
Mm-hmm.
but let's
Take your time.
see.
It's all good.
Okay, yeah. Let me just get to
Sure.
candidate. It's in the candidate folder. Okay, protocols and paradigms. Let's go there. All right. Yeah, let's. Because I didn't expect to.
No, it's all good. You know why I go off in tangents.
Basically, there are biochemically there's two things that you truly enjoy, and those are dopamine and serotonin. And like I say, one is a pleasure molecule. Dopamine is a pleasure molecule. Serotonin is the happiness molecule.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the difference between pleasure and happiness.
Okay.
Okay. Pleasure is short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is long-term. Pleasure is visceral.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is ethereal pleasure.
Oh, you might hear my dog in the background
That's
drinking
okay.
water. He's being happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Pleasure can be achieved with substances.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness cannot be achieved with substances. Um, Pleasure can be achieved alone. Happiness is experienced in social groups. Extremes of pleasure all lead to addiction, whether they be substances or behaviors like
So
gambling.
everything in moderation.
Right, right. There's no such thing as being addicted to too much happiness. Um, Biochemically, pleasure is dopamine.
Okay,
Biochemically, happiness is serotonin.
got it.
And that's kind of what you get down to is the difference between pleasure and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why CBD is so useful in treating opiate addiction.
Mm-hmm. And anxiety.
Right, right. Well, yeah, CBD kills anxiety like raid kills cockroaches.
Yeah. And you know what's so amazing is that I love how it works with pets also because there are a lot of pets with
Well, right,
separation anxiety and stuff.
right, right. And like 4th of July when the fireworks go off,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
dogs just don't like that. And
I don't like it either.
no,
I like to watch it, but I like to plug my ears.
yeah, I'd rather have them go off without the bangs.
Yeah.
But so the thing is, um, this business that oh well, if it produces, and you get people that say, oh well, like CBD companies will say,
Mm-hmm.
well, our CBD doesn't um, it has no psychoactive properties.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ridiculous. Now, psychoactive means that it's producing a biochemical
Right. And
reaction in the brain.
I have misspoken myself with that. Because
Right,
because it's
right.
just such
It's
a
easy to
the
do
word is wrong. Yeah.
because they're trying to make
It's
the
trying
the evil molecule.
Well, it's just trying no, I think like for a lot of people we're just trying to say CBD doesn't make you high.
Right,
I mean, that's the way to
right.
say it. CBD
See,
doesn't make you high.
but the high is actually the release of dopamine,
Right.
and
Right.
CBD does not release dopamine.
Right. So and that's where and that's why when you're talking to just everyday people, you it's amazing how many people still don't know the difference between THC and CBD. But
Yeah,
trying to explain to them, get in words that they can that makes sense to them,
right,
like it doesn't make you high. It doesn't make you
right.
high. It can't. It can't. CBD just can't do that. It doesn't. That's not
Well,
how it works.
it doesn't release dopamine.
Hmm.
Dopamine
But
is
to
where,
be honest, people might not even understand dopamine.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, but we're now kind of looking at things holistically
Hmm.
from a molecular perspective,
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
makes any sense at all. But
So going back to the fibromyalgia thing, and I'm going to pull this
mhm,
slide up again. Like you were talking, the way things are right now, it's a one molecule approach.
right, that's the paradigm.
You've got pain. Here's some Vicodin. Oh, now you've got constipation. Well, let's throw Relistor in there. Anxiety.
Right,
Hey, let's throw some Xanax in there. Pretty soon they're on 20 pills a day. Life sucks because
right.
their
Because
body is so out of whack.
these molecules that they're ingesting all the time, they're throwing out the endocannabinoid system out of
Hmm.
that.
So the new way to do things,
Is to
the way that we're
balance the
hoping,
endocannabinoid system rather than targeting
right,
the endocrine system.
right. And the thing is, I mean, yeah, who knows? Once your endocannabinoid system is balanced,
Then
you
when
may
your
still need some
endocannabinoid
help.
system is balanced, you're going to have that sense of well-being.
Right.
And now, and people have to understand that pain is one of those things that if you've got a physical ailment,
Hmm.
something physical, people want to say, okay, I want to just be completely out of pain. I just, and there's ways of doing that. I mean, yeah, like intravenous morphine is probably one of the greatest feelings I ever had in my life. was intravenous morphine.
Well, you were in hospice, so
Yeah, I was in hospice, and that's how they treated me.
Mm-hmm.
And and then it's like, okay, you're going to die within 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm not really that interested in dying. So I started doing some research, and this is how I got into the industry
Mm-hmm.
in the first place. Was once I was able to convince my doctors that I didn't need them anymore,
Mm-hmm.
which they made them extremely angry. They really, when I survived, there was obviously they were not happy.
Yeah.
But maybe I was just realistically, I was probably a little snarky.
No, David, no,
Well,
not you.
I have a tendency to do that.
No,
Yeah.
I just don't believe that. I have a problem believing that. So,
So,
but okay, well, so let's talk about pain a little bit.
okay.
But actually, let's not. I want to talk about something different. Let's talk about neuropathy. I'm hearing so much
Yeah.
about neuropathy.
Right. Well, neuropathy is a neuropathic pain,
Uh-huh.
and we're getting back to the difference between THC and CBD here.
Mm-hmm.
Neuropathic pain is different from inflammatory pain.
Yeah.
THC treats neuropathic pain.
Okay.
CBT treats
Inflammatory.
inflammatory pain.
Got it.
Okay, and
Okay.
so, but there's different types of pain. Those are a couple different types of pain.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Neuropathic
What
pain,
about the?
like
What do they call?
diabetic neuropathy.
Yeah.
Um,
So they could do. They
they,
could do
they need,
THC and the THCV
well,
or whatever it was. CB.
well, yeah,
What was
yeah.
that?
I mean, if you're dealing with diabetic neuropathy, of course,
Mhm.
you're going to be wanting to treat the diabetes
With the THCV.
with the THCV. You're going to want the THC. Well, actually, what you're going to want is THC 8,
Oh.
a delta 8 THC.
Oh, the Delta 8. Okay.
Right, and that's kind of an interesting thing too. It's another phytocannabinoid, and you have to understand. We know now. Like 5 years ago, we thought there were only like 66 phytocannabinoids.
Exactly.
Now we know there are at least 113.
Okay. I knew it had gotten past 80.
Right.
And I thought I had heard it gotten over 100. So,
Yeah, it's at 113 now,
nice.
and there's an Israeli group, which I don't believe,
Mhm.
that have gotten it into the thousands, and I
Ah,
don't buy that.
yeah. I
But
don't know about that.
and this is what happens is, I mean, the thing is, you have to understand that we don't know much about, we don't know everything. We're in the infancy of this paradigm,
Yeah.
and so we have to kind of work with what we know at this point. And I mean, we're learning new stuff every day. I'm learning new stuff every day, and I'm at the cutting edge of this.
Mm-hmm.
And and people that tell you, oh, I know everything about cannabis.
Run.
Well, yeah, run from those people.
Yeah.
Because
You can know a lot.
I don't know everything about cannabis.
Yeah, you can know a lot about what's there. Nobody knows everything about everything.
Right.
About
Yeah,
anything.
because we can't, because we haven't been allowed to do the research for 8 decades.
Yeah. And thank God, because if we already knew everything there was to know, then that means
man, you
that
would not believe the changes that are going to take place. By the year 2020, it's going to be huge.
I'm so excited.
And the and you would not believe how many physicians are coming on board and abandoning this paradigm that they've been conditioned to believe in for, and it's not really a matter of abandoning a paradigm. It's just we're complementing paradigm with this multi-molecule approach.
Well, it's also accepting the fact that we don't know everything. And I think a lot of people have a problem accepting that.
Right. Well,
especially doctors.
It's hard. I mean, back in, I mean, we were Newton
Mhm.
what it was certain we knew everything back in the 1900s. that, I mean, there were actually people that came out and said, well, there's nothing more to know in physics,
Mhm.
nothing more to know, because we've got it all down. We know everything.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you say, "Oh, I know everything," somebody's going to come up
Prove
and
you
come up
wrong.
with an observation
Yeah.
that surprises them and said,
Mhm.
"Well, I don't understand how that happened." And that's
Mhm.
what's going on now in the field of medicine. Is for a while, I mean, this one molecule approach. The thing about the one molecule approach is that it works
Mhm.
until it begins to fall apart.
Until it
And
causes another problem.
right, and what we've got going on now is actually the CDC has come out and said um, that we're not, the drug-resistant bacteria. We're just, there's going to be there's going to be a pandemic,
Pandemic. Mhm.
yeah, that goes on because we're not treating it correctly. And actually, I've got a patent on, or actually, it's a patent pending
Mhm.
on a protocol for keeping the MRSA bacterium from spreading from hospital rooms to hospital rooms.
Yep.
And I've actually sold that to a hospital here in the United States.
Mhm.
And what it is an antibacterial spray. It's a couple different things. It's an antibacterial spray coupled with hemp fabrics, like hemp hospital gowns,
Hemp.
hemp.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you take hemp fabric and you spray it with the MRSA bacterium,
Mhm.
within 24 hours, 98% of that MRSA bacterium is dead.
I love it.
Okay, so and in addition to that, I've got a cleaning compound that's used to like wipe down tabletops and
Mhm.
countertops and other appropriate surfaces, that to sterilize or to degermify hospital rooms.
And it's hemp based,
Well, it's
or it has
it's
hemp in it.
it's cannabis based,
Cannabis based. Mhm.
right? And the thing about it is I've sold it to a hospital, and what the interesting thing that happened was, the administrator of the hospital, yeah, we need this because we've got MRSA like all over the
Mhm.
hospital, and we need to get it under control.
Mhm.
So he took it to the attorneys, and of course the attorneys come back and they say, okay, you've got to abandon this patient. And I was a patient at that particular
Uh-huh.
hospital. You've got to abandon this patient because he just sold you a Schedule I drug as a cleaning compound.
Yeah.
If we use it, we'll lose our federal funding.
Yep.
So basically, we're now marketing it outside the United States,
Mhm.
because what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cure MRSA all over the world and let the people in the United States die from MRSA because
Because of bureaucracy.
because of the bureaucracy, and
Yeah.
that's where we get down to bureaucratic stress disorder,
Yeah.
which is another thing that I treat.
I thought you were going to do your PhD on that.
Yeah, well, there's a possibility that I am going to do my PhD on that. I'm actually going to be applying for a NIDA grant, looking at CBD isolates, and and I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to incorporate that into a
Yeah.
dissertation, but what you find is that as an isolate, CBD alone
Mhm.
will cause depression.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and that's why you need that full spectrum,
Yeah.
because just like how CBD mitigates the psychoactive effects of
Yeah.
THC,
Mhm.
well, CBD mitigates the depressive effects of CBD.
I'm sorry. CBG?
CBD, um,
Okay.
THC mitigates the depressive effects of CBD.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay, it's kind of and that's the entourage effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
One molecule, compensating for
hmm
the effects of the other
Yeah,
molecule.
and that's where you get that whole homeostasis part coming in.
Right,
It creates that balance. So,
right, and so what you get is down to the point, and
mhm.
I don't know, did we talk about Verata or not Verata, Ramanabot in the
Let's see here. No, we did the CBN,
okay.
olamide, CBG,
Okay,
CBC.
well, let's talk about a little bit about Ramanabot.
Okay, and this is going to be our
Yeah.
last one. So we'll
Okay.
spend a little time on this
Yeah.
one. Uh-huh.
Just a little bit of time on
Yes,
Ramanabot. Ramanabot
definitely.
was a drug. It's actually a synthetic CBD that was produced by GW Pharmaceuticals. They thought
Oh.
it was released in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought it was going to be the cure for diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was it actually produced depression to the point of suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
And so they had to pull it off the market.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, if synthetic T, and this is the paradigm that we're talking about, if synthetic CBD causes depression, does organic CBD?
Well, but okay, but then again, I'm looking back at the chart. Does 2AG cause depression?
Um, well, 2AG is actually more of a anti-inflammatory,
Mm-hmm.
um, and no, see, and this is the reason why. Well, see, there's two schools of thought on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if look at it from a molecular perspective.
Okay.
You've got the receptor that it's accepting that molecule, like the CBD molecule,
Mm-hmm.
that organic molecule.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when that molecule gets into that receptor, the thing that happens is, it's kind of blocking that receptor, so it can't receive any more molecules, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what happens is, and this is how the cell reacts, is it sends out an enzyme called FAH.
Mm-hmm.
And that FAH, it degrades that molecule, so it opens up the receptor to receive more molecules.
Okay.
Now, if it's a synthetic molecule, then it takes a lot longer to break that
Oh.
down.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like eating plastic fruit rather than organic. Okay, and this is kind of how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so chances are, and this is what we don't know because the research hasn't been done.
Right.
Does FAH break down the organic molecule faster than it breaks down the synthetic molecule? And we don't know.
Okay.
We're down to the point where, again, we don't know everything.
And that's why we need to do the research, and that's why we need our hands unshackled.
Right. That's why we need to do the research.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what it kind of comes down to. And the fact that the United States is banning the research makes it really, really difficult for scientists like me to produce the knowledge that's going to be out there.
They don't want you to produce the knowledge, so.
Well, it's kind of hard to say what they really want because it's not individuals that are doing this. This is a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That's doing
Well,
this.
there's you've got a lot of lobbyists.
Well, you've got the politicians that are it produces dopamine. It's scary. Dopamine is evil.
Yeah.
THC is evil because it produces dopamine. It gets you high.
Well, but let's look at the other side of it. I mean, the cannabis as a whole. Look at the petroleum companies that are freaking out because of the plastics industry that can be turned on its head.
Yeah, that's where we're getting down to hemp. And right now it's just so expensive to produce, plastic bottles and that sort of thing out of hemp because the technology isn't there.
Right.
we have to get the technology put together
Yeah.
before.
I mean, it started, but it needs to be
We'll get it
expanded.
done.
Yeah.
We'll get it done. It's just a matter of producing the machinery.
Hmm.
You know, that will happen.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it takes some time to do that. And the other problem is that time is time is money.
Yeah.
And people don't want to put the money into something that doesn't produce results immediately. You know,
Yeah.
oh, you know, we want the money, we want our money back within, 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to happen. You know, this is a long-term thing, and we'll get it done.
Hmm.
We'll get people that investors that say, hey, 6 months, we don't need the money back in 6 months. You know, we need
We're looking for the long term.
money back in a few years.
Yeah.
Then we'll be fine.
Hmm.
You know, but investors seem to want the money. The money. We want the results now.
Yeah.
You know, it's that I want that pleasure. I want that dopamine high
Yeah.
that I'm getting, paid off immediately. I want that pleasure
Yeah.
instead of, I want that happiness long term.
Yeah.
You know,
I hear
and
you.
so we're getting back to that.
All right. Well, give me something that you think is going to happen within the next 6 months.
The next 6 months.
Since we're going dopamine.
Yeah.
Hey, I already know what's going to happen long term. I've got the serotonin covered.
Well, within 6 months, you're going to see many more states accepting medical cannabis for certain. You might see a few more states go recreational. I'll guarantee that Florida is going to go recreational. Texas will jump on board.
Medical.
Yeah, Texas will jump on board.
And everyone was putting money down, saying that they would be one of the last ones kicking and screaming. But I think
that's going to be probably. Well, I was thinking
Arkansas.
Yeah, I was thinking Kansas will go, but Kansas just allowed for hemp.
Oh, that's a step in the right direction.
They haven't gone medical yet. But and then there's South Dakota is kind of an issue because the people in South Dakota seem to really like their opiates.
Oh,
and
that's a shame.
And I hate to disparage South Dakota. Actually, I have been there, but yeah, there's a lot of opiate addiction going on in South Dakota. Idaho is kind of an interesting state. Utah is kind of interesting as well.
Although they have Orrin Hatch, who's actually for medical cannabis now.
Okay, yeah.
So
a lot of the politicians are starting to jump on board.
Well, because it's touching them personally. When it touches them personally, they switch.
And a lot of times that happens because you run into a situation that somebody, I had a friend that cured cancer because of using medicinal cannabis and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And these success stories, they subvert the dominant paradigm, which is what has to happen is that dominant paradigm needs to be subverted.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I do is I do everything I can to subvert dominant paradigms.
You're such a subverted person. Such a rebel.
I've been told that I'm a little bit too rebellious. So.
Don't listen to them. Do not, please, for the love of God, do not listen to those people. All right, so we're going to leave it at that. We're going to give it another few months and then come back and get some more because you always have something new to tell us. You always have something, to share so that we learn. And I'm so grateful for that and grateful for the other scientists out there that are doing the work.
Yeah, there's a lot of scientists out there that are doing stuff that is amazing.
Yeah. And Balanced Bio is lucky to have you.
Well, really Balanced Bio, we've got a really good team at Balanced Bio. And,
yeah.
So we're doing stuff that's cutting edge and amazing.
Yeah. And what's the website there? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's balancedbio.com.
Well, that's easy. Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
So we got it, guys. Go check out balancedbio.com. They've got David Dawson behind them.
right.
They got to be doing something right.
And if you there, I've got 2 books on that website. Medical Cannabis: The Definitive Guide.
And I think that's the one we talked about in episode
That's the one
42.
we talked about. And then I've got my novel on that as well. That's called Pummeled to Death by Hamburger.
Nice.
And both of those books you can get cheaper through that website, like at half the price through that website than you can get going through the major
Amazon.
corporations.
Yeah, because I think I got the medical one, the cannabis one on Amazon.
Yeah,
As
and it's
the Kindle version.
because
And I
because
recommend everyone getting that book. I
oh
seriously
yeah,
do.
I appreciate that.
That was a
And,
great book.
yeah, I had a good time writing that one.
Yeah, that was good.
And you don't really need a scientific background
Mhm.
to understand what's going on in that book.
No,
you don't,
you make it very easy to understand.
that's been my goal for the entire time
Mhm.
is just if you can't explain your concept simply, you simply don't
Yeah.
understand it.
I love that quote. I'm going to start living by that one. Okay, and we also again want to mention Tina Williams. Thank you, Tina, for being our sponsor tonight for iThriveNaturally.com. I got to tell you, CBD and honey sticks, they go together. Put it in your tea, and it is full spectrum. Um, so that's good as well. So, okay, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. I will get another episode out shortly. Sorry for the delay. I do apologize. Hopefully next time you won't be seeing the kitchen behind me, but I'll find something. Thank you again, David. We truly appreciate you.
Oh, of course.
Okay, everybody, remember, stay happy and stay healthy.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.